Welcome back, everyone. We've got a really interesting deep dive ahead of us today. You all sent us a ton of articles and reports all about the recent U.S. elections and the impact they might have on the financial markets, particularly in the digital asset space.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
A lot to unpack. We've got some analysis from ARK Invest about potential regulatory shifts for crypto. We've got insights from FS Insight on the broader market reaction. And we're even going to take a look at how some specific companies, for example, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, might be affected.
Lots to go over. Yeah.
Let's dive right in, and we'll start with ARK Invest.
Okay.
They had a lot to say about crypto, and
Right.
it seems like they think that the election of Donald Trump could signal kind of a major shift for digital assets,
Yeah.
especially Bitcoin.
Yeah.
In fact, Frank Downing, who's director of research, Next Generation Internet at ARK,
hmm
calls him a pro-crypto candidate and
Yeah.
suggests we might even see kind of Bitcoin boom.
Yeah, I think that that's probably right. The price of Bitcoin has already surged to record highs,
Oh, wow.
even before any concrete policy changes have been implemented. So it seems like the market is anticipating a more friendly regulatory environment.
Okay, so what does a pro-crypto president actually mean in terms of policy? Like, what are they expecting?
So Downing suggests that we might see a more crypto-friendly SEC, potentially a reopening of that IPO window for digital asset companies,
Interesting.
and the passage of some legislation that's been kind of stalled,
Like what?
like the FIT 21 and Clarity for Payment Stablecoins Act.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about those.
Right. And those acts essentially just try to clarify jurisdiction and provide a framework for stablecoins.
Hmm.
And that regulatory clarity, a lot of people are hoping will lead to wider adoption because investors would feel more confident.
Yeah, remove some of the uncertainty that's been holding back a lot of those institutional investors.
Right, exactly.
So they also mentioned
Yeah.
that one big change could be the repealing of SAB 121,
Right.
which has been preventing those traditional financial institutions from custodying digital assets.
Oh, that's right.
So why is that so significant?
So if those major banks and institutions can hold crypto, well, then that could lead to a surge in investment, right? It kind of legitimizes digital assets in the eyes of traditional finance.
So is this like a sign of a new era where we're all going to be paying for our coffee with crypto?
Well, it's certainly possible that this more favorable regulatory environment could fuel that kind of growth. But it's important to remember that digital assets are inherently volatile.
Right.
And even ARK Invest reminds investors of that risk. They say to consult with a financial advisor before making any decisions.
Good point. Good point. Always important. Always proceed with caution.
Right.
But shifting gears a bit,
Sure.
they also highlight the defense sector as one to watch
Okay.
under this new administration, and they suggest we might see some big changes in this space.
What kind of change?
Well, Tasha Keeney, who's the director of investment analysis at ARK Invest, she predicts that the new administration will probably prioritize efficient spending
Okay.
in defense. And this could potentially lead to a shift away from those big traditional defense contractors that we all know.
Okay, so why would a shift away from traditional defense contractors be such a big deal?
Well, they're not exactly known for being agile or innovative.
Yeah, no, that's true. They're these big bureaucratic organizations, slow to adapt. And the nature of warfare itself is changing, right? We're seeing AI, drones, and all these cutting-edge solutions, and they just require a different approach.
So could this open the door for these smaller, maybe more nimble tech companies to enter the defense industry and challenge those big guys?
Yeah, that's exactly what she's suggesting. In fact, she even named a few companies that could benefit,
Oh, really?
like Shield AI, Endural, and Kratos. They're all focused on these AI-driven solutions.
Wow, so this could have some really big implications, not just for the companies, but also for the future of warfare itself.
Yeah, if you imagine, like, wars being fought with swarms of autonomous drones controlled by, like, sophisticated algorithms, that raises a whole bunch of ethical questions,
That's a whole other conversation we could.
A whole other deep dive.
Right. So if you were an investor looking at this sector, would you bet on the established players or those newcomers?
Yeah, that's a tough call. I think it depends.
It's a dilemma.
It is, for sure.
But moving on to something that actually might seem kind of counterintuitive at first.
Okay.
ARK suggests that a potential revival in M&A activity, mergers and acquisitions, could actually be a good thing, especially for those smaller disruptive companies.
Really?
Yeah.
You would think that would be bad for the little guys.
Right.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, Brett Winton, who's the chief futurist at ARK, He argues that the historically low levels of M&A activity in recent years, which is largely due to the FTC's strict stance, has actually benefited those big large cap incumbents more than the disruptors.
Oh, interesting.
And he says that the lack of M&A has created this kind of prisoner's dilemma where nobody wants to make a move for fear of attracting regulatory scrutiny.
I see. So how does less M&A help the bigger companies?
Well, if large companies can't acquire those smaller innovative companies, then those smaller companies struggle to grow, right?
Right.
They might have amazing ideas and technology, but they don't have the resources of the big guys. So Winton's arguing that the FTC's policies kind of tilted the playing field in favor of the big guys.
I see. Okay. So this challenges that assumption that more M&A is always bad. It really depends on where you stand in the market.
Exactly. And a resurgence in M&A could lead to more accurate price discovery for those smaller companies and make them more attractive to investors.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But of course, there are always winners and losers in these kinds of situations. But it's something to think about, how this could play out for the future of innovation. Now, we can't forget about healthcare. ARK seems quite optimistic about potential positive changes in healthcare under the new administration as well.
Yeah, what are they saying?
Well, Nemo Marjanovic, who's an analyst at ARK Invest, suggests that we might see this more market-driven approach to healthcare, with a focus on innovation, competition, and prevention.
Okay.
So what would that look like?
Well, he points to a few potential changes. One is improving the Affordable Care Act. They also talk about expanding those short-term health plans, promoting sales across state lines, and enhancing price transparency. It's all about giving consumers more choices.
So potentially lower premiums, more options. What would the actual benefits be for the average person?
Well, it could incentivize insurers to be more innovative and personalized, right?
Hmm.
You could have healthcare that's truly tailored to your needs. It could lead to faster development and adoption of new medical technologies.
Wow.
And he specifically highlights the potential for modernizing the FDA, streamlining approvals for new therapies,
Right.
especially in areas like gene editing and precision medicine, AI diagnostics.
Yeah, that's exciting. Faster access to potentially life-saving treatments.
Yeah.
That's something we all hope for.
Absolutely. And if you think about a healthcare system that's not just about treating illness, but promoting well-being
Yeah.
and leveraging AI and genomics and digital tools to shift from reactive sick care to proactive and preventative healthcare, early detection, curative approaches, that's the vision.
So that sounds like a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
A healthcare system that prioritizes well-being. But let's move on from ARK.
Okay.
Talk about how the market itself reacted to the election. FS Insight has some interesting observations about this.
Okay.
They report that markets reacted very positively to the results.
Right.
We saw significant rallies in all the major indices, S&P 500, NASDAQ, Dow,
Yeah.
and the small cap Russell 2000 even had its biggest post-election move since 1978.
Wow.
That's according to Mark Newton, head of technical strategy at FS Insight. So what's driving all this confidence? What do the experts say?
Well, it seems that the resolution of that election uncertainty was a big factor. Markets tend to like predictability. When investors know what's going on, they're more likely to invest.
Makes sense.
And that, combined with the prediction from Tom Lee, head of research at FS Insight, who had anticipated a strong year-end for stocks even before the election, well, it all seems to have fueled the positive momentum.
So is it smooth sailing from here on out?
Well, Newton does point out that the rally might not be broad-based. Some stocks haven't participated in the upward movement, and there are some concerns about potential pullbacks.
So you're saying a little caution is still warranted?
Yeah, I think so. The markets rarely move in a straight line.
Right. And of course, there's the Fed, the FOMC meeting that took place after the election. That's got to be a piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely, a big one.
So what happened at that FOMC meeting? What does it mean for the market?
Well, they lowered the target interest rate by another 25 basis points, actually.
Okay.
So that continues their move towards a more neutral monetary policy stance. Essentially, they're backing off those aggressive rate hikes we saw over the past year.
So for those of us who aren't economists, what does a neutral stance actually mean?
It means the Fed is more comfortable with the current pace of inflation and growth. They're trying to keep the economy growing without letting inflation spiral out of control.
Okay, so it's like a balancing act.
Exactly. And for the average person, it means more stable borrowing costs
Oh, okay.
for mortgages and stuff.
Right. For businesses, it creates a more predictable environment for investment.
Makes sense. But did Powell say anything about any potential shifts in policy based on the new administration?
Interestingly, he said that the election wouldn't have an immediate impact on policy decisions. The Fed is staying the course.
Okay. So consistency from the Fed, good during times of political change. But Tom Lee at FS Insight, he weighed in on the FOMC meeting as well, right?
Yeah, he did.
What did he say?
He called it dovish, which generally signals that the Fed is leaning towards supporting growth, even if that means a little more inflation. And Lee believes that this, along with that resolution of election uncertainty, makes things look positive for equities in the near term.
So cautiously optimistic. I think so. But for the average person, what does a dovish stance really mean? Well, lower interest rates.
Oh, okay.
So it's easier and less expensive to borrow money for homes, cars, businesses.
So that stimulates economic activity.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot here, from the potential crypto boom to the shifting landscape in defense and healthcare, the market's reaction to the election.
Phew. Yeah, it's a lot. It seems like this election could really be a catalyst for change across multiple sectors.
Definitely. And we're already seeing some of those potential changes play out. But as always, there are risks and uncertainties to consider.
Right. No one has a crystal ball.
Nope.
But you've given everyone a lot to think about.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So are we on the verge of a new flourishing era for some of these sectors? Or are there some bumps in the road ahead?
Well, only time will tell. But at least now, everyone has the knowledge to watch these developments unfold.
So we were just discussing all of the potential implications of this election.
Right.
But it's not just about these big picture trends and the market movements. There's some pretty interesting developments happening at the company level as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You've included some interesting sources that really kind of delve into those more micro-level shifts.
Right. And one article in particular caught my eye because it connects back to our earlier conversation
Okay.
about the tech landscape and these geopolitical tensions.
Mm.
And it focuses on Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Companies.
TSMC.
TSMC, yeah, which is a major player in the global semiconductor industry.
Oh, yeah. Huge. The world's largest contract chip maker.
Right.
Those advanced chips, I mean, they're in everything.
Everything.
From smartphones and computers to AI systems.
Exactly. And according to the FS Insight report, they're actually halting production of those super advanced AI chips for Chinese companies.
Oh, wow.
Unless they get special permission from U.S. officials.
So the ones with nodes of 7 nanometers or smaller.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty significant considering that those chips are essential for all sorts of applications.
Yeah.
Including AI and even military tech.
So what's behind this move? Why all of a sudden?
Well, it seems to stem from an ongoing investigation into how some advanced chips produced by TSMC for other customers ended up in a device made by Huawei.
Oh, wow.
Which has been under those U.S. trade restrictions.
Right.
So this is part of that whole tech tug-of-war between the U.S. and China.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how those tensions play out in the tech world.
Yeah, well, it highlights that kind of intricate dance between technology, trade, and national security, right? I mean, for TSMC, a Taiwanese company, to comply with U.S. export restrictions, that really kind of shows how far U.S. influence reaches in the global tech world.
Yeah, it seems like they're willing to exert that influence even beyond their borders to maintain that technological edge, especially when it comes to competing with China.
Right, and this will probably have ripple effects throughout the whole tech industry.
As companies adjust their supply chains and strategies.
For sure.
It's like a high-stakes game of chess, isn't it? Every move reshaping the board.
That's a good way to put it.
But speaking of global events with potential ripple effects, FS Insight also mentioned a rather unsettling incident.
Oh.
Apparently, racist text messages were sent to Black Americans across the country.
What? Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it's very disturbing.
Yeah.
According to the report, these messages were sent to people in at least 20 states.
Oh.
And they contained horrific language.
Like what?
Things like, you've been selected to pick cotton. Or you've been chosen to be a slave.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's just a reminder that these issues persist.
Yeah.
And the FBI is now involved.
Really?
Which suggests that it's being taken very seriously, as it should be.
Oh, absolutely. These messages are intended to intimidate and dehumanize.
Right.
That's awful.
It also highlights the darker side of technology.
Yeah.
All its potential benefits.
Right.
But it can also be used for these malicious purposes.
Yeah, it's an ongoing challenge to find a way to prevent it, right?
Yeah. But let's shift gears to a different development this time coming out of China. FS Insight reported on a massive bailout package that was announced by the Chinese government to address their ongoing debt crisis.
Yeah, we've been hearing a lot about China's economic challenges, haven't we?
Yeah.
The the property market, and just slowing growth.
Right. So what's the situation there, and how big is this bailout?
So local governments in China, they've racked up a lot of debt fueled by those infrastructure projects in the years leading up to the pandemic.
Okay.
And then the slowdown caused by the pandemic, plus those property market problems have made it even harder to pay it back.
Oh, I see.
The bailout is worth something like $1.4 trillion.
Wow, that's a huge amount of money.
It is.
So is this going to be a permanent fix?
Well, analysts think it'll provide some short-term relief,
Yep.
Prevent a more immediate crisis.
Okay.
But a lot of them caution that it's not a long-term solution.
Right.
Those structural problems that led to the crisis,
Right.
they still need to be addressed.
So it's more like buying some time.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Speaking of challenges,
Hmm.
FS Insight also mentioned BlackRock,
Right.
the world's largest asset manager, potentially taking a stake in Millennium Management,
Oh, interesting.
a very successful hedge fund.
So this could be a way for BlackRock to kind of expand their presence in that alternative investment space.
Yeah, hedge funds, private equity, real estate.
Yeah. And Millennium Management has a great track record, so this investment could give BlackRock access to their expertise.
So it suggests that despite the recent market volatility and the economic uncertainty,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of interest in alternative investments.
Yeah, they can be a good way to diversify portfolios and maybe generate those higher returns, especially when interest rates are low.
Right, but they come with more risk.
Oh,
So
definitely.
it's always a balancing act, right?
It is.
Now, shifting to the political landscape,
Okay.
FS Insight reported on some drama unfolding in Germany.
What happened?
The coalition government has collapsed.
Oh, wow.
It seems that the coalition, which was formed after Angela Merkel retired, was facing increasing tension and policy disagreements.
Okay.
The final straw. A clash over how to deal with a multi-billion-euro hole in the German budget.
Oh, wow. So what happened?
Chancellor Olaf Scholz of the Social Democrats ended up firing Finance Minister Christian Lindner of the Free Democrats.
Oh, so that led to the collapse.
Yeah.
So what happens now? Snap elections.
Well, there are calls for early elections, but Scholz initially proposed postponing the election process until January, with a no-confidence vote first.
Okay, so we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, Germany's a key player in the European Union.
Yeah,
So this instability could have implications,
definitely something to watch.
for sure. Now, for a story that sounds like it's straight out of a spy thriller,
Okay.
FS Insight also reported on a suspected Russian plot
What?
to sabotage cargo planes headed to the U.S.
Sabotage. Really?
Yes.
Wow, it's serious?
According to European law enforcement and intelligence officials,
Okay.
there's been a string of suspicious fires at shipping facilities in Europe,
Where?
in Germany and England.
Okay.
Apparently, these fires were caused by electric massagers that have been tampered with,
Tampered with.
rigged with flammable material.
Oh, wow.
And they believe these incidents are part of a Russian plot to disrupt cargo shipments to the U.S.
So are there any suspects?
Yeah, Lithuanian police have apprehended a man believed to be working for Russian intelligence.
Wow.
Polish authorities have detained at least 4 others.
So they've broken up this ring.
It seems like it.
So what was the motive? Why target shipments to the U.S.?
It's not entirely clear, but it's likely connected to the ongoing tension between Russia and the West,
Makes sense.
especially because of the war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Disrupting cargo shipments could be a way to exert pressure
Right.
or just create logistical challenges.
Oh, for sure.
It's a good reminder that these geopolitical conflicts can show up in really unexpected ways.
Yeah.
And it also underscores the vulnerability of global supply chains.
Right.
Disruptions can happen.
For all sorts of reasons.
Exactly. Now for a bit of lighter news.
Oh, good.
Let's talk about something positive coming out of France.
Okay.
Remember the fire that ravaged Notre Dame?
Oh, yeah, back in 2019.
Yeah, it was a huge loss.
It was heartbreaking.
It really was. But there's good news.
Oh, is there?
After a long and meticulous restoration,
Yeah.
the bells of Notre Dame rang together
Oh, wow.
for the first time since the fire.
That's wonderful.
And the cathedral is scheduled to officially reopen in December.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's a symbol of resilience
It is.
and hope.
Yeah.
It shows that we can rebuild
Yeah.
even after tragedy.
It's a powerful reminder.
It really is. Speaking of renewal,
Okay.
it's time for us to transition to the final part of our exploration of these sources.
Okay. Sounds good.
Stay with us as we delve deeper into, wow, we've covered so much.
I know, right?
From the potential for this like crypto boom to, all the changes in defense and healthcare.
Yeah, even those kind of geopolitical things happening around the world.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride through all these
It
sources.
has been.
But it seems like we're living in this time of just immense possibility.
Yeah, there's so much potential out there.
But the stakes are high.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
It's almost like we're at this crossroads, isn't it?
Yeah, like a fork in the road.
And the choices we make, not just as individuals, but like as a society,
As a whole. Yeah.
are going to determine what path we take.
Yeah, which way we go.
So what does all this mean for everyone listening?
Yeah.
Why should they care about all these shifts and trends?
Well, knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
The more you understand what's going on, the risks, the opportunities, the better you can make decisions.
About your life, your investments, everything.
Exactly.
It's about being proactive.
Instead of reactive. Yeah.
And one of the most important skills you can develop, I think, in this crazy world is critical thinking.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got to question everything. Don't just accept what you hear at face value.
Right. Yeah.
Think for yourself. Consider the different perspectives.
Or your own conclusions.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to challenge the way things are.
Yeah, I mean, all the big innovations come from people who thought differently.
To question the status quo.
Exactly.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's been fascinating.
And I hope it sparked a sense of curiosity for everyone listening.
Yeah, keep learning.
Keep exploring.
There's so much out there.
So much to learn.
Keep diving deep.
So keep asking questions. Keep seeking knowledge. Keep challenging yourself to think critically.
And creatively.
Because who knows, you might just be the one who comes up with that next big idea.
Yeah.
The one that changes everything.
The one that changes the world.
We've talked a lot about the impact of this election on the markets, on the industries.
Right.
But what about the impact on you?
Yeah. How do you see these changes playing out in your life?
In your community?
In your future?
That's something to think about.
It is.
And on that note,
Okay.
it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah.
But of course, the exploration doesn't end here.
Never.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Until next time.
Until next time, everyone.